Husseinov, and I'm here back with my regular podcasts on markets. You can familiarize yourself with my latest views on my website www.yeriktu.com. And this is to bring you up to date. Back in February of 2016, I indicated that I thought that global asset markets, that is to say equity markets, are basing. I have said that I am bullish from around current levels, illustrating it with the German DAX. The DAX then was trading around 8,800 and the absolute low was 8,699. I then forecast that the index will continue to rise all the way into 2017. We are now roughly coming to about here in the middle of 2016, and let's see what has happened. If we look at the DAX, here it is. On the day that I posted that update, which was February the 11th, that was indeed the absolute low in the market correction, and since then DAX has rallied about 20%. We got about 20.4%. Similarly, in the United States, Nasdaq rallied about 17%, and there have been absolutely stellar performers like Brazil. This is Brazilian index adjusted for the appreciation of the Brazilian real, the currency, and that has rallied an awesome 72%. That again includes appreciation of the Brazilian real. So where do we go from here? My firm belief is that this 4-month rally is over, and I'm looking for equity indices across the world to fall quite substantially, possibly reaching new lows. So if we look at this Brazilian index, that's EWZ, I'm looking for a decline of almost 30%, possibly into June or July. It won't, of course, be in a straight line. It probably will look something like this. So first decline of about 15%, then a corrective rally, and then a big dump of maybe 20% or something like that. So I'm looking for weakness in Brazil leading into July. I'm also looking for quite a substantial decline in US indices. So Nasdaq here will very likely revisit these lows around February and August of last year. If it breaks these levels, that's very bearish. It is possible that it breaks those levels. If it does break those levels, then my next target, this is a weekly chart, would be roughly around here, 3,000 at 3,500, and that would represent a decline of about 24%. Entirely possible, cannot be dismissed. For Europeans, European indices have been much weaker than US indices and some emerging markets. So European indices, this is again the DAX, could very well revisit the February low or even decline through it. So for the DAX, I'd be very comfortable with the DAX falling almost 20 or over percent into the end of the second quarter, so that's roughly the end of summer. And yeah, again, not in a straight line, but I'm looking for a substantial decline. And let's see if I can bring in some other European indices. Notably, the European Banking Index. Banks, of course, lead just about everything in Europe. They're the largest component of European stocks. So this is the banking index from 2012. I see the banking index peaking around current levels and falling below the lows over here, all the way possibly falling by about 30%. That's the European Banking Index. I now look at US banks, and here the forecast is really quite negative. So if I bring up some US banks, starting with Bank of America. So Bank of America has rallied also from February very very strongly, about 30% or so, but again you can see that it's really stalling around these big levels. In 2014 and 2015 they acted as substantial support around $15 per share, and that is very likely now going to act as very heavy resistance. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bank of America revisited its February lows for sure. Citigroup is the next chart. Let me find that. Citigroup. Citigroup also, really nice, very, very solid rally, almost just over 20%, really, 30%, 35%. And again, it's stalling just around $47, which has proved to be support back in end of 2015, beginning of 2015, and middle of 2014. This is now going to act as very solid resistance, and I believe that Citigroup is going to revisit the lows of February. And my last chart in America will be of American financials, will be Morgan Stanley, where I believe this is one of the weakest US financials, and I see this falling about 25% again towards the middle of this year, possibly 30%. I'm now going to touch on the US dollar. My forecast for the US dollar is that it's going to bottom quite soon and will probably accelerate and move higher. The US dollar, this is the US dollar index, will likely bottom between current levels at 93.80 and probably 92.50. That's about 2%. That means that the euro dollar could, so 1.5% or so. And I see the US dollar rising quite rapidly from there. And I see it going quite a bit high. US dollar probably will appreciate about 10% from an eventual level where it bottoms. That means that the euro dollar, which of course is the heaviest component of the US dollar index, will go probably towards parity. So we may see euro trading below 1. Euro may become cheaper than the dollar. That'll be quite something. It hasn't happened for quite a few years. That may mean that sterling will decline substantially and possibly go below 137 to 135 quite easily. Sort of back into 135, and of course sterling's all 2009 low is at 135. That would be a very, very fitting end to this big decline of sterling from 170 back to 135. Thank you very much for listening. Please do write to me if you have any questions.